Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about everything wrong with the P3 generation Volvo. So this P3 generation spans all the way from the S80 up to the XC60, including the V70, XC70, V60, V60 cross country, S60, you get my drift. It's between 2007 and 2014, and it's Volvo's sort of third sort of generation of the V70, second generation of the S80. So yeah, you get that sort of idea. It's that sort of era of Volvo, and it was Volvo's sort of one of the most anticipated versions of their cars that they produced. The P2 variant, the shape before this, was massively popular, and it was sort of Volvo's main entrance into the global car market. Don't get me wrong, they had plenty of cars before, but the P2 chassis broke loads of records for Volvo in terms of sales figures and everything like that. There's a reason that these P2 chassis are still around today. I mean, I think the P2 S80 is actually more common than the P3 S80, so that just shows how popular this was. So Volvo obviously had quite a serious task on its hands to improve upon that basis, but unfortunately there are a few areas there where they slipped, and I'm going to be identifying them now. So this is my 2009 Volvo S80 D5, and obviously it's a P3 car. The issues that I identify here are pretty much standard across all P3 cars, so if you haven't got an S80 it doesn't matter, it still apply to you. So let's get started. So the first biggest one that you hear as soon as you mention P3 is going to be the leaking windscreen. So essentially, for a period of time, Volvo forgot how to mount windscreens on their cars, and as a result you get leakage every time it rains. Basically they forgot to glue large chunks of the windscreen properly, so you don't get a proper seal, and it all leaks into here. This is something that can be fixed, but usually it requires a completely new windscreen. Volvo did for a short period do that under warranty, or as like a goodwill, because they realised how crap it was, but unfortunately they've stopped doing that, and by the time I bought this car they long stopped that sort of thing. So that's a bit of a shame, a bit of an odd oversight by Volvo considering they're a safety brand, but yeah, it is what it is. It's although I live in the UK, it's not that rainy that it causes it to leak. It's only really heavy rain that causes it to leak. So, and there are certain things that I've made videos on before where you can sort of mitigate the amount of leakage that you get. Okay, number 2 on the list is going to be the shock absorbers on the rear. So this is obviously a Volvo S80, and these came with self-leveling rear shock absorbers. So for those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you know that to replace one of these shock absorbers is £550, it's about $600, 580 euros. Absolute fortune just for one shock absorber, and this is something that I didn't do my research on before I bought the car. Fortunately, I got the car cheap enough that I had some money left over where I could just dump it on a shock absorber. However, unfortunately, they aren't available anywhere else other than Volvo. It's a real shame, really, and that's, I think, one of the advantages that the P2 cars have over these P3 cars. P2 cars have much more aftermarket support than these P3 cars do. For example, I was able to find about 25 different manufacturers of shock absorbers, the Nivermat self-leveling suspension shock absorbers for a V70 P2 or an S80 P2, whereas here they just don't exist. It's crazy. So that's a real pet peeve of mine, and I think it just comes with the age. As these cars get older, I think more aftermarket suppliers will try and implement manufacturing processes to support the parts for these cars. But yeah, it's just a frustrating thing that you find when you're trying to look for parts, because they're getting to the age where things are starting to go wrong, yet the only place you can get them is directly from Volvo. So that's another pet peeve of mine on this car. Next, we're going to be talking about the interior. Now, don't get me wrong, the interior on these cars are absolutely lovely. This one's got the R-Design package, so it's got all the metal inlays, full leather, R-Design steering wheel, R-Design gauge cluster. But one of the biggest complaints with the generation before this car was the fact that there was pretty much no storage inside the car. These door bins, as you can see, as they were on the P2, and Volvo really didn't improve the interior storage on these cars. I mean, you've got this awful pouch that you can just about fit some air fresheners in. You've got tiny door bins that won't even fit a bottle of water. I've currently got an umbrella and a book and a bit of paper, and it's full. Same on the other side, only really good for the documents, that sort of thing. Centre console is a bit bigger than the P2, but not that much better. And on this version you did get 2 cup holders here rather than one folding out the dashboard. But in terms of improving the storage, Volvo have done very little, despite claiming that they've been listening to customers. So that's a bit of a disappointment, but you know, I'm over it. I love this car, so it doesn't really matter too much to me. Another thing on the interior is going to be the RTI system. Now, this car is obviously a 2009. Back then, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, all of the car's main competitors had iDrive type systems built into the dashboard. Whereas this car, as you can see, it's all sort of old-fashioned here. And then this bit is a sat-nav. It's called the RTI system, and it folds out of there. It's a screen that only does navigation, whereas like the other cars that I mentioned earlier, they had all integrated systems with Bluetooth music, everything like that, which this car doesn't have. So it's a bit of an oversight by Volvo to not really, they sort of underestimated their competition in that way, I think. But yeah, oh, there's some water here. Great. That needs sorting. But yeah, as you can see, guys, the water leak is real. That's the worst it's ever been, so I'm gonna have to sort that out. But yeah, in terms of the interior, guys, they just sort of overlooked a lot of things that I feel they could have made a lot better. Another thing as well is the window motors. They're really prone to going boom, so bear that in mind if you're buying a P3 car. But yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this video short just to address this water leak. It's kind of quite fitting, really, isn't it? So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.